Today is a good day to talk about the Browns and Baker Mayfield because, Charean, it's hitting the fan. The Browns stuff is hitting the fan for the Browns in Cleveland. Sorry, enjoy your dinner. But what did they think? And I'm going to give them a little bit of credit here and think that this is just part of their strategy. Because I said earlier this week, they've got a float chart. They've got a plan. They've got a chief strategy officer in Paul DePodesta, so they presumably have a strategy for everything, including this. Step one, try to get Deshaun Watson. If that doesn't work, you move on to step two. I don't think step two is tell Baker Mayfield you're not going to trade him when he reacts the way that a reasonable person would expect Baker Mayfield to react and say, trade me. There has to be more to this, and it may just be that they're saying no in order to maximize their leverage in any talks that they may have with a team that may want Baker Mayfield, because you've always got to have leverage. And if you don't have two teams that want Baker Mayfield, your leverage comes from saying, we're just going to keep him. So that maybe that, look, if that's not the explanation, then they're idiots. That has to be the explanation. We're acting like we're going to keep him, so we have leverage if there's only one team that is a viable trade partner. Because if there's only one team and you're not going to keep him, you're not getting anything close to what you could for Baker Mayfield.
Well, Mike, this makes no sense to me that a few days ago they were moving on from Baker Mayfield regardless of if they got Deshaun Watson or not, and now suddenly, we're going to keep Baker Mayfield. So that to me tells me right away that this is a ploy, that they are using that as a negotiating tactic to try to make teams more interested in him. I cannot see him coming back for Cleveland for multiple reasons. And you talk about he's playing this year under the fifth-year option. So what do they think, that he's going to be Jimmy Garoppolo and come back for 1 year and then negotiate with them or play on the franchise tag next year? The hay's out of the barn. This thing's over. This is done. Baker Mayfield's time in Cleveland is done. Now it's just a question of where does he end up? Does he go to Indianapolis where he reportedly wants to play? Does he go somewhere else? But I do think this is a ploy, Mike, to try to get more for Baker Mayfield than they might otherwise get. As you said, perhaps there's only one team bidding on Baker Mayfield and they need more than that. But now you have to ask yourself, what are the Browns going to do at quarterback? They may be worse off than what they were last year.
You know, I hate to do this to you because I'm in a fairly good mood today relative to the moods I've been in all week, but we do have a new Chareanism. You are taking another page from Chris Sims because
hay out of the barn.
The saying is either the horse is out of the barn or the hay's in the barn. Hay out of the barn would be an amalgamation of the two sayings, and that is definitely something.
We're feeding the animals.
Well, no, too late. That's definitely something Sims would say, so well done.
I knew it when I said it.
It's got to be the only explanation that they're trying to salvage any type of leverage. Now, how stupid do they think these other teams are? Once Baker Mayfield – see, what they need Baker Mayfield to do is to play along, and that's what they should have done. They should have gone to him and said, we'll accommodate you with a trade if that's what you want, but we can't make this public. We can't get into a back and forth. We have to act like we are together in order to get the best possible outcome. In other words, do what the Seahawks did, right? Make it look like Russell Wilson and Seattle were staying together because there was only one suitor for Russell Wilson, and you only need one suitor if you can legitimately, while negotiating the contract, take the position of, screw it, we're just going to keep him. I say that all the time. Having the desire to keep the player is a very valuable thing to have if you can sell it. It's like somebody coming to your house to say, hey, you got a nice car out there, I'd like to buy it. Well, it's not for sale. Well, I'll buy it for $5,000. Well, it's not for sale. Well, how about $6,000? Well, it's not for sale. Right? So the more you can convince someone of that, the more you can get if someone else really wants him. And it does become that basic at some level. It is horse trading at some level. I just think it's too late for the Browns to try to sell that to anyone. I made the point earlier today. After Mike Garafolo of NFL Media said that the Browns are out on the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes, but they're keeping Baker Mayfield, and they told his agents at the scouting combine that they were going to potentially explore the possibility of getting a high-profile quarterback. Well, back on January 9, the final Sunday of the regular season, NFL Media also reported that the Browns plan to enter 2022 with Baker Mayfield as the quarterback. So we've got the tweet on the screen. You can't do this and expect people to buy it. You can't put out the word in January that you plan to keep Baker Mayfield. Then you spend 2 days trying to get Deshaun Watson. Then you put out the word that you plan to keep Baker Mayfield. No one's going to believe that. And maybe all it takes is one stupid team, I guess, to believe it. But I just think there's a better way to build trade leverage than to sell bullcrap to everyone and anyone. I still think, even though there are plenty of must-lie situations when it comes to the NFL and what you're going to do about your strategy and what you're going to say, you really should at least have some concern that people are going to look at you and believe you've got a shred of credibility. It still matters what you say. And it's baloney that the Browns are going to go forward with Baker Mayfield. They're done with him, and they're trying to get the best possible trade in a clumsy kind of way, and they can only hope that Baker Mayfield plays along. Good luck with that, too. I mean, this is a guy that you regard as immature, and you're expecting him to behave maturely when you're in the process of running him out of town? That's not happening, Charean.
No, and it's a complicated predicament for them, Mike, and I don't know who they end up with at quarterback. Maybe it's Case Keenum for a year, who knows, but I do know that Baker Mayfield has played his last game with the Cleveland Browns. And way back when, you proposed a trade that I still think I would have loved to have seen, and that was Kyler Murray for Deshaun Watson. I would have loved to have seen that. I'm going to throw one out here that I thought about earlier today. How about Derek Carr for Baker Mayfield? Because Josh McDaniels has expressed a love for Baker Mayfield. I just think he would fit in there well with the Raiders, and I think Derek Carr would do well with the Browns. That, to me, makes a ton of sense for those two teams to make that trade.
Well, and I think that Josh McDaniels would have done that in 2018 if he was coach of the Raiders then, and Baker Mayfield had yet to give us 4 years of film. The problem is, I think McDaniels' estimation of Baker Mayfield has likely diminished based upon what we've seen. He's got 2018 and 2020, good year. 2019, horrible year. Last year, not a great year, thanks to his own decision to go try to make a tackle in week 2 after he threw an interception. I'm not sure if I'm McDaniels, I'm as smitten with Mayfield now when I have Carr, who is clearly better. I mean, I don't hate it, but I think that there'd have to be a lot more from Cleveland flowing to Las Vegas to get it done, and the Raiders are consciously taking a step back. You know, I've been all over the idea of the Lions getting in on this and trying to get Baker Mayfield. Yeah. They'd have to deal with Jared Goff's cap number and his contract, but it's not going away. And I always say, I root for a great story, and Baker Mayfield being traded by the Browns would be a great story. But you know what's an even better story, Charean? It's Baker Mayfield not getting traded when he wants to get traded and being with the Browns week in and week out and being salty and being edgy and being a pain in the ass. And if the goal here is to sufficiently motivate Baker Mayfield to go out and have a great contract year, if that's what they're doing, if this was the shot across the bow aimed at getting Baker Mayfield pointed in the right direction, what happens if he has a great year? What do you think he is going to sit down and negotiate a reasonable contract with the Cleveland Browns? Or is he going to sit down and say, pay me or trade me, pay me or trade me, or not even pay me? I want out. I want out. I'm out of here. Bye-bye. I'm gone. I just think with a guy like Baker Mayfield, you have to understand who you're dealing with. And you're dealing with a guy who is emotional. You're dealing with a guy who, I don't know, is it immature? I don't know. Or he's a different kind of a guy. He's a different kind of a personality. And, you know, you could say he's a lot like Aaron Rodgers. But the Packers deal with Aaron Rodgers because he's so damn good. So the Browns started this. Mayfield wants to finish it. And I don't think it's going to be good for anyone to keep this relationship in place other than us. It'll be very good for us because it will be a constant source of focus by the fans, content for us, and traffic and stories and interest, because it will have that train wreck from which you can't look away quality.
Well, and Mike, they're either looking for a quarterback this year, or if they can convince him to come back, again, I don't think that's going to happen, but they're looking for one next year, because you're right, he's not going probably to play with them again, having gone through everything that he's gone through now. So if you're the Browns, you probably don't want, unless you're going to win a Super Bowl, which I don't see the Browns winning the Super Bowl playing in the AFC, where it's going to be awfully hard even to win their division and really hard to win the AFC title. So if you're the Browns, let's say he does have a great year. Now you're picking late in the draft. What are you going to do at the quarterback position? I mean, then it brings up a whole different level of what are we going to do at the position beyond this year. So a ton of questions now for the Browns, who just a couple years ago we were talking about, hey, this is a young team, a lot of talent. They could go to the Super Bowl here in the next couple years, and they just haven't gotten it done. One playoff win. Really took a step back this year. And I'm sure that shoulder injury that Baker Mayfield had surgery on affected him last year. But nonetheless, he wasn't very good, and they weren't very good last year. It's just time to split ways, and the Browns can figure out what they're going to do in the future, and Baker Mayfield can go play for somebody else and try to get a new start and try to live up to those expectations of being the number 1 overall draft pick.
Seriously, what do you expect, Cleveland Browns, out of Baker Mayfield this year if he plays for you? What do you really expect? How do you expect the year to go? And the problem is, Charean, the better it goes, the greater the pressure on the Browns to keep him around. Yeah. Nothing like a great season will get people to forget the off-season drama. So I think they can't afford to keep him around. I suspect that the method to the madness here is they're just acting like it. And they're at a certain point, if you're the other teams in the league, you really are looking at this saying, do you think we're idiots? Do you think we're idiots? We know where this stands, and we know where this is heading. And we're going to make you a fair offer for Baker Mayfield, regardless of whether or not you're trying to posture that you're going to keep him. So I think that it's ridiculous. And I hope they come to their senses, and I hope they trade him. But not right away. Let's milk this for a little bit, right? Because we got the Deshaun Watson thing that's likely going to come to an end. Then we need another story that will drive traffic. Listen, I'm a businessman here. We want to have good stories. We don't want it to all settle down and get boring. We want it to move on to Baker Mayfield, and then maybe Kyler Murray will get stirred up. And then who knows? Maybe we can start something between Josh Allen and the Bills. I mean, we can keep this going. I'm kidding about that part. And obviously, we're not going to make something out of nothing, but if something's there, we're not going to ignore it. That's what we're here to do. We pay attention to these stories. And if I'm fascinated by what's going on between Baker Mayfield and the Browns, Charean, I assume that the average football fan is fascinated too. And I've got a niece who's a huge Browns fan. She doesn't want Baker Mayfield. She didn't want Deshaun Watson. And maybe, I don't know, maybe that's what the Browns fans are feeling right now. They weren't maybe all that in on Deshaun Watson, given the allegations that, I don't know, if most people have kind of forgotten in 6 days. But they definitely have soured on Baker Mayfield. And he's contributed to it by the way he's conducted himself.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question, Mike. You're Baker Mayfield. Let's just do a hypothetical of the Browns really do intend to keep him, okay? They're going to keep him. If you're Baker Mayfield at that point, what do you do? I assume you're going to sit out the offseason program. What do you do at that point? How do you convince the Browns that you truly do not want to play for them?
Well, the problem is the last CBA bumped up the fines for players who hold out. Now, they can't be waived for players who are operating under their second contract. I think the fifth-year option still counts as part of the first contract. There are some stiff fines if you skip preseason games in your fifth-year option. It's not easy to do. But you know what you can do? You can just say, I just work here. I'm going to punch the clock like everybody else. I'm going to be here when I'm supposed to be here. I'm going to leave when practice is over. I'm not going to show up early. I'm not going to stay late. I'm not taking my tablet home to study film. I am doing the absolute minimum. Good luck having a... Now, the problem is he's only hurting himself by doing that. See, the Browns don't expect that he's just going to have this passive-aggressive, I don't want to be here, not quite Terrell Owens level, but just I'm doing the bare minimum and I don't care how it prepares me or doesn't prepare me for the season. I think at some point, if he is going to stay, his attitude has to be, I'm going to have the best possible year I have so I can force the issue after the season. I think these are all unacceptable outcomes for everyone. Everyone. For Mayfield and the Browns, this is not acceptable. This is not the kind of distraction you want as you're trying to build your program in the right direction. And I don't know who they get now. Jimmy Garoppolo? Could they get Derek Carr? I don't know. Could they get Matt Ryan if Deshaun Watson goes to Atlanta? Or if he doesn't, we're going to pivot to that here in a second. But I just think that you don't start down this path without a plan, and the plan can't consist of 2 steps. Try to get Deshaun Watson, and if that doesn't work, tell Baker Mayfield he's our guy even if he wants out. That can't be the end. It has to be the beginning.
Yeah, he's not Jimmy Garoppolo, and this isn't the same thing that happened in San Francisco, and he played out his deal, played out the season, getting Trey Lance ready to take over as the starter. This isn't Jimmy Garoppolo in any way, shape, or form. I truly think Baker Mayfield has got to go somewhere else. It's better for him. It's better for the team. The split's been made, theoretically. So move on. Let Baker Mayfield start over, and you start over trying to find your franchise quarterback. Yet again, Mike, you think about how many quarterbacks this team has had. They're going to be starting over again at that position.
Yes, they will, and someone else is going to have Baker Mayfield. And the other thing, too, is you don't want to flesh this out to the point where Mayfield acts in a way that completely turns another team off to him. But we know how coaches are. They all think that they can control a guy that maybe wasn't properly controlled by another coach. And that's how I'm rooting for the Lions to get Baker Mayfield. Charean, I was looking at the list of Lions quarterbacks since Bobby Lane. They have not had a guy with Baker Mayfield's attitude and edge and swagger since Bobby Lane. Maybe that's how you finally reverse the Bobby Lane curse. You go get another Bobby Lane, and you hope that on the way out the door, even though you don't compete head-to-head with the Browns, they do have a preseason classic that actually has a trophy. But maybe on the way out the door, Mayfield puts the curse on the Browns. Not that the Browns are new to being cursed. At least there would be an explanation for them being bad if somebody had cursed them. Currently, they're just randomly bad. They can't say we've been cursed. Maybe Mayfield puts the curse on him as he goes to Detroit.
Well, and I like the moves that the Lions have made, and they've upgraded their receiving core. DJ Chark got him in free agency this week. So I really like some moves that they've made, and they may, in fact, have a better offense than what the Browns have, at least on paper right now. So I like the moves that they make. It'd be a great place for him to go. It would be fun to see him with the kneecap biters there in Detroit, because he would seem to fit in with Dan Campbell in that group.
And I think Campbell could control him. And I think that Campbell is large enough and imposing enough that Mayfield would submit. Sometimes it's just basic alpha male tendencies that can get a guy under control. And if you're Baker Mayfield and Dan Campbell stands up, Baker Mayfield backs off, quite possibly.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.